once worked as an overnight caregiver for a 65-year-old woman with a developmental disability. Her name was Martha. Her daughter, Colleen, who was in her 40s, worked night shifts and needed someone with medical experience to watch over her mother while she was away. When I say I once worked for them, I mean exactly that. Just one night. And you're about to understand why I never went back. It's hard to say why Colleen didn't place Martha in a care facility. Maybe she couldn't afford to, or maybe she simply didn't trust strangers. Whatever the case, she hired me, likely because I had experience caring for individuals with developmental disabilities. I was already working with 2 other clients at the time, so I thought this would be manageable. I was wrong. Colleen introduced me to Martha around 9 p.m. that night. Martha gave me a tired but kind smile before Colleen led her upstairs to bed. Before leaving for work, Colleen gave me a heads up. Martha had dementia, and sometimes she'd wander around the house late at night, disoriented. She emphasized it wasn't sleepwalking, it was more like confusion that came in waves. I told her I could handle it. I wish I hadn't been so confident. Once Colleen left, I settled into the living room and put on a show to pass the time. These jobs can be a lot of quiet waiting, so I figured I'd enjoy the downtime. Maybe 30 minutes passed before I heard footsteps upstairs. I walked to the base of the stairs and called up, "Martha, you okay?" No answer. A moment later, I heard her retreating back to her room. The door closed gently. I assumed she'd just gone to the bathroom and didn't think much of it. An hour later, I got up to grab a sandwich from the kitchen. But as I walked out with the plate in hand, I nearly dropped everything. Martha was standing motionless in the hallway, staring straight at me. The plate did fall. Shattered glass scattered across the floor. Startled, I apologized and asked softly, "Martha, are you all right?" She didn't answer right away. Then suddenly she began yelling. "Who are you?" she screamed. "Why are you here? I don't know you." I tried to calm her, told her my name again, explained that her daughter Colleen had hired me to stay with her tonight. For a moment, it seemed to click. The panic in her eyes faded just enough for me to gently guide her back upstairs. I brought her some water and melatonin and waited while she took them. When she finally lay back in bed, I thought we were through the worst of it. I was drained. I'd worked earlier that day and barely had energy left. Thankfully, Colleen had mentioned I could nap in the spare bedroom down the hall if needed. Martha seemed to be asleep, so I lay down. Within minutes, I was out, but not for long. I woke up maybe an hour later to a sound. The night took a turn downstairs. I started hearing this slamming sound, rhythmic, repeating, every 1 to 2 seconds. Something was being violently slammed, over and over again. I jumped out of the bed, heart pounding. I had purposely left the bedroom door open so I'd hear if Martha got up. I guess that decision was about to pay off, or so I thought. As I crept toward the stairs, I realized the sound was coming from the kitchen. I moved fast, but quiet. When I reached the bottom, I paused, the slamming still going. Then I peeked around the corner, and what I saw genuinely rattled me. Martha was in the dark kitchen, standing in front of the oven. She was repeatedly opening it and slamming it shut, over and over again, like she was caught in a loop. It felt like a scene straight out of a horror movie. When I say I saw Martha, I mean I saw her silhouette, just a figure in the darkness. The kitchen light was off, but moonlight from the window cast her in eerie shadow. I called out sharply, "Martha." She stopped, turned her head slowly toward me. Then she shut the oven one final time and began walking toward me, step by step, quiet, intentional. I lowered my voice, trying to sound calm. "Are you okay?" When she got close enough, I could finally see her face. Emotionless, blank, just empty eyes. She walked right past me, didn't say a word, and started heading up the stairs. I followed. As soon as she got into her room, she slammed the door shut. I knocked. "Martha, are you all right?" No response. I cracked the door open slightly and saw her just standing at the side of her bed, facing the wall, not moving. I've seen a lot in my years of care work, but this was unsettling, like something lifted straight from a nightmare. I slowly walked over, gently guided her into bed, and tucked her in. "Good night, Martha," I whispered, more to myself than to her. I backed out and closed the door. Back in the spare room, I lay down, but didn't let myself sleep right away. I stayed alert for about half an hour, just in case she got up again. But exhaustion got the best of me. I passed out. The closet. I woke up hours later. The room was still pitch black. My 1-hour alarm hadn't gone off yet. Something else had woken me. I sat up, looking around, trying to figure out what it was. Then I noticed it. The closet door across the room, slightly open, and through the crack, a shape, a head, just barely visible. A shadowy figure watching me. I felt a cold wave of dread pass over me. "Martha," I called out. No response. "Martha," I repeated louder this time. Still nothing. Then, without warning, she pushed the closet door open and slowly stepped out, approaching the bed. And as she moved closer, she started saying the same thing she'd yelled earlier in the night. "Who are you? I don't know you." Her voice was growing more frantic as she got closer. I tried to calm her down, reminding her again who I was. I reached toward the bedside lamp, fumbling for the switch. The light clicked on, and that's when I saw it. She was holding a kitchen knife. My blood ran cold. Everything changed in that moment. This wasn't confusion anymore. Martha, in that state, was now a threat. To me and to herself. I shot up, my voice cracking. "Martha, put the knife down." But she started screaming back, louder than before. "I don't know you. Get out of my house." She took another step forward, the blade catching the light. There was no calming her down. Not now. I wasn't trained for this. This wasn't in any job description. I scanned the room for a route. I leapt off the far side of the bed and bolted past her. She swung the knife, a slow, shaky swipe, but it was enough to confirm she intended to use it. I ran downstairs, grabbed my shoes, and flew out the front door. Aftermath, I didn't call 911. Colleen had told me specifically to call her first if anything happened, so I did. When she answered, I was panicked and yelling. She was yelling too. "Don't leave her alone," I shouted back. "She tried to stab me." She begged me to wait until she could get home, and I agreed. But from the outside, I stood by the house, watching the windows, making sure Martha didn't leave. When Colleen arrived, she rushed inside. A few minutes later, she came out and told me Martha was back in bed, asleep. I told her everything. She didn't believe me at first, until she found the knife. Right next to Martha's bed. Still, she accused me of exaggerating. I didn't even bother defending myself anymore. I left out the part about falling asleep, not because I felt guilty, but because I didn't want to give her any ammo to use against me. She had offered me that room to rest. I never worked another shift in that house again, and I don't regret it. Martha was the most terrifying client I'd ever encountered in 9 years of direct care work. Domino's delivery, first night horror. Back in 2019, I took a job at Domino's. It was my first night on the job. Honestly, I wasn't there because I loved the idea of delivering pizzas. I just needed the money. College supplies, dorm fees, food. I was desperate to cover what my scholarships didn't. That night, I was shadowing a manager as part of their training protocol. New hires would tag along for a few deliveries with a manager to get evaluated on performance. Pretty basic stuff. It was sometime around 8 p.m. when we got our final order of the shift. Our store didn't have any of the newer tech. No built-in GPS systems or big touchscreen maps like you'd see at modern stores. We had to punch in the address manually on our phones to figure out where we were going. The order was simple but large. 4 pizzas, 2 bottles of Pib. We loaded up my car, since I was the one technically making the delivery, and the 3 of us piled in, me, my manager, and another new hire who was also in training. I didn't know him. The address we were headed to was way out of the way, on the edge of town, past the last set of streetlights. That wasn't too weird though. Our town was old and stretched out, and it wasn't uncommon to go miles without seeing another house. It took us about 15 to 20 minutes to get there. The moment we pulled up, we all kind of fell silent. It was a 2-story house, or what was left of one. The paint was long gone. Wood was chipping. Several windows were boarded up. The porch was barely standing. It didn't look like a place anyone should be living in. I asked the manager, half joking, "Are you sure someone ordered from here?" He just nodded and told both of us to come with him. "I'll handle the pizzas," he said. "You two just stand back and observe." I hesitated. The other trainee looked nervous too, visibly uneasy, eyes locked on the second-floor window furthest from us. "I swear someone's watching us from up there," he said under his breath. The manager scoffed. "You're just paranoid. We'll be in and out in under 2 minutes. Relax, be polite, and keep your head straight." Against my better judgment, I got out of the car. Every instinct told me to turn back, but something made me keep walking. I stepped up onto the rotting porch, the wood creaking under my shoes. The trainee stayed a step behind. I reached for the doorbell, pressed it. Nothing. Dead. So my manager raised his fist and pounded on the door, hard. After about 15 seconds, we knocked again, this time harder. Still nothing. Impatience started creeping in, and an awful, rotting smell hung in the air. We couldn't tell if it was coming from the house itself, or something inside. Finally, after about a minute of waiting, the door creaked open, but only partially. Just enough for someone to peek through. An older man, maybe in his 50s, glanced at us cautiously and asked who we were and what we wanted. My manager told him we had his pizza. Suddenly, the man unlocked the door, swung it open wider, and his demeanor completely changed. Friendly, even cheerful. And that's what unsettled us most. It felt forced, off. He explained that it had taken him a while to get to the door because he had trouble moving around. My manager handed him the receipt and asked if he'd be paying with cash or check. The man nodded, said he'd be right back with the money, and disappeared into the house. But he left the front door wide open. Curious, I took a step closer and glanced inside. The place was empty. I mean, completely empty. No furniture, no decorations, nothing but a couple of old blankets on the floor. It was clear, this man didn't live here. He was squatting. And then we heard it, footsteps, from upstairs. Not just one set, multiple. That's when everything clicked. What the other employee had said earlier suddenly made sense. Someone had been watching us as we approached. My manager called out, asking if the man had found the money, but no reply. The footsteps stopped. Total silence. The only thing we could hear was our own breathing. It felt like the whole house was holding its breath. My manager told us to stay by the front door in case the man returned. He was going to check around the back, just to be sure everything was okay. We nodded. He walked off. And then, more footsteps, but not from upstairs. They were coming from beneath us. The other delivery guy and I looked at each other, both of us confused, and definitely on edge. Then, we heard our manager scream. A second later, frantic footsteps. He came sprinting around the side of the house, yelling at us to get back to the car. Now I've never driven so fast in my life. Once we were away, our manager explained what he'd seen. Behind the house, deep in the shadows, he spotted a small campfire. Around it sat a group of men. He got closer and saw what was in the center of the circle. A baby deer, alive. The men were laughing at it, mocking it, like it was some kind of twisted game. When he told us that, my stomach dropped. The new guy and I both quit that night. I later found out our manager left the job a month later. We'd walked straight into something dark, something cult-like. I don't even want to think about what would have happened if we'd stayed any longer. One thing's for sure, I never delivered another pizza again.